one. Hello, my name is Rikkipoynter, and I have been so sick with a cold since VidCon. Speaking of VidCon, we're going to talk about VidCon today. First of all, if you haven't seen my VidCon vlog that I published last week, please go do so. VidCon was a lot of fun, and I am very grateful that I got to be there for a second year in a row. Got to meet some old faces again, got to meet some new faces. I want to talk specifically about the accessibility or lack thereof at VidCon. So if you weren't at the panel on the very first day of VidCon, and if you haven't looked at the vlog that I uploaded for the Disabilities on YouTube panel, we were supposed to have 2 live captioners and 1 ASL interpreter. And what happened was when we got to the stage, I wasted 10 to 15 minutes of panel time. It started without me because the interpreter didn't show up at all, and the second cart did not show up at all. When I went to take my seat at the panel table, there was nothing there for me. There was no iPad or laptop to read off of. It was just at the audience, which was great, but I needed something as well. So that was very stressful, and we had to take the cart away from the audience members that needed it. So that really sucked, and it made me feel bad for like the entire trip. So after the panel, Allie and I went to go find Travis and I could find out what the hell happened, because it shouldn't have happened. And at first we thought that VidCon messed up and didn't assign anybody, because there was a bit of a struggle emailing back and forth trying to make sure they knew what I wanted, and then I tried to get the answers that I wanted, and it turns out they had no idea that they didn't show up. The ASL interpreter and the second cart did not show up, and they didn't call or email anybody to let anybody know that they were coming. That really put a damper on the day, and then it made us worry about what was going to happen at my workshop the next day and what was going to happen with part 2 of Disabilities on YouTube. Fortunately, everybody showed up. I don't know if the ASL interpreter assigned for part 2 of Disabilities on YouTube showed up, but the interpreters that I had at my workshop, they offered to be my personal interpreter the next day, so I used them all day when going to panels and workshops. It was awesome, so we used them. Speaking of using my interpreters, the panel part 1 on Thursday, we had to piggyback off of somebody else's personal interpreters. They were nice enough to let us do that, but we're not really supposed to do that. But despite all of the bad stuff, there was some really good stuff as far as accessibility went. There was an improvement from last year, and I'm going to assume from all the other years that VidCon has been happening. To my knowledge, there has not been an ASL interpreter on any of the main stages or arenas. This year they had 2 ASL interpreters on the main stage and at the arena. Well, they had 1 standing and then 1 sitting, and then they would change every half hour. And then from what I was told, there were 15 other interpreters on standby, which makes me think, why wasn't there 1 offered at the panel on Thursday? But anyway, so that was pretty awesome. So with that out of the way, what happened when Allie and I talked to Travis, I think we kind of got offered a job at VidCon. I think we now have positions as disability / deaf / whatever, you know, that's involved in this whole general area advisors. So I guess we're in charge of trying to figure out what's needed, what needs to be improved, how to get that settled. We're not exactly sure what the stuff is specifically. We know that everybody at VidCon's taking about a 2-week vacation after the convention, which is fine. And then we're going to email him later and find out exactly what the details are. So what could possibly be improved at VidCon? Well, a lot of things. I don't know the budget for VidCon, so everything that I can think of that could be improved. It may or may not be able to happen. It all depends on budget, because they said it could get very expensive. But let's just say that in a perfect world, this could happen, and you know, we talk throughout the year and figure out how to, you know, make this happen. Because so ideally, in a perfect world, there would be an interpreter and a cart at every main stage, every arena, and every panel workshop room. That is in a perfect world, because I realize that there's a lot of these things, so, you know, It's a lot of money. Instead of maybe having them in every room, because if you have an interpreter in every single room, it might not make sense, because, well, how many, deaf attendees are there going to be? Of course, the issue is, maybe there aren't deaf attendees enough, because there's no access for them, you know what I mean? So, that's a thing. But one idea that I had in mind, and this could probably be too busy and maybe too complicated, but again, we talk it out, figure it out. If, on the forms when you fill it out, if they had like a little section that said, do you need some sort of accessibility, like if they were to ask, do you need a wheelchair, do you need this or that, maybe check off like, hi, I'm deaf or something on a form. I don't know what the forms look like. I've never been to VidCon. I was just a creator. I've always been as a feature creator, so I don't really know what the form looks like. So far, I can't really think of what else could possibly be done. Like I said, this would all be in a perfect world. I don't know VidCon's budget. I don't know how complicated getting all of this together would be. So it's just something to talk with the other people at VidCon about and, get that together. I know that, thank you, camera, for cutting off on me, and I'd never remember where I started off or where I stopped before it stopped. But yeah, really the plan for this year, for VidCon 2017, is to just talk with the other people at VidCon, talk to Travis, talk to Nick, and see what can happen, because I know this is going to take baby steps and one thing at a time. So if you have any ideas for, future accessibility, go for it. Go write them in the comments. Oh, did I mention that one of the main things that I would like is for also a live captioner to be at the main stage in the arena? That would probably be even more useful than an interpreter, because I'm assuming most of the people there can read, so that would be very, very helpful, because sometimes the mics aren't all that great and not everybody has perfect hearing. So if you have any suggestions, just go ahead and leave them in the comments down below, and Allie and I will read the comments. And even if you're not deaf, if you're a wheelchair user, if you're blind, whatever, just leave the comments down below so we can read them, write them down, and take that to VidCon. Okay? So check out my social media links down below. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. I upload videos every Monday and Thursday unless otherwise stated. Also, feel free to support me on Patreon every month. The link to that will be down below as well. And I will see you later. Bye!